The challenge is nobody has a real definition of what the word time actually means, what it is. The best that we can do in physics is posit that there is some axis, there is some quality that we can measure change by invoking, much as you just described. We say that time has elapsed because the system has changed. But is that a real definition of time? Not really. It's a very pragmatic approach. In our equations, we have a little variable called t. It's introduced in basically all the dynamical equations of physics. And yet we are still struggling to figure out, is it something we impose from the outside because it's a useful way of organizing experience to have a temporal order to things? Is it fundamentally written into the laws of reality that there is this thing called time? Might there be realms of reality where there is no time, and yet there's still something there that we would call in existence? So these are the big, tough questions that we've yet to fully been able to grapple with.
Now, well, I saw Richard Dawkins recently being interviewed by Piers Morgan, and Piers was struggling with the idea that there was no time before the Big Bang. And that obviously violates our embodied intuitions, right, which are strongly tilted in the direction of presuming time as a constant. But
I would even say the framing of that question is an interesting one, because to talk about before the Big Bang is to assume that the notion of before is applicable in that extraordinarily different realm of existence. In everyday life, of course, the word before makes sense. But when you get right back to the Big Bang, it could be that this conception of time emerges with that event. And the very concept of before may be meaningless. It's like, Stephen Hawking had a great analogy here, which was if you're walking on planet Earth and you pass somebody, you ask them which way is north. They point you northward. You keep on walking. You ask somebody else, how do I go further north? They point you further north as well. When you get to the North Pole and you say to somebody there, how do I go further north than the North Pole? They look at you quizzically because it doesn't make any sense. You've reached the location on Earth where north begins. The Big Bang could, in principle, be the location in reality where time begins, and going further back in time may be as nonsensical as going further north than the North Pole.
This is exactly the difficulty of conceptualization that Peirce was struggling with. And to me, it's a lot easier to understand that if you understand that there is no fundamental distinction between time and change. And so if the existence of time is predicated, let's say, on the existence not only of matter, but of matter that's changing, and you have a state where there's either no matter or the matter that is there is not changing in any manner, the whole notion of time vanishes because the phenomenon itself doesn't exist. And